Zoro and Sanji are ready to fight once again. So, chapter 1182 started with the continuation of the last chapter, which was Loki's attack against Imu-sama. Loki was wondering if the attack he launched actually had any effect on Imu or not. Then the panel shifted to Imu, where we could see him slightly smiling. He mentioned that he never expected to meet Nidhogg again, and there he called him a traitor. That statement itself was a huge revelation because this confirms that Nidhogg was once an ally of Imu, since he literally called him a traitor. This also supports the growing theory that some of the legendary beasts or ancient entities in Elbaf may have originally served the world government centuries ago before eventually turning against them. Anyway, Imu praised Loki's attack. He said that Loki's lightning had outstanding compatibility with Ragnar's ice powers. And yes, Imu clearly focused on Ragnar as if he already knew him. It was confirmed that Ragnar is literally a hammer that simply ate a Zo and devil fruit called the squirrel fruit, model, Ratatoskr. For those who don't know, Ratatoskr is actually a creature from Norse mythology that carries messages across the world tree, which perfectly fits the giant Viking-inspired theme of Elbaf. What's interesting is that Imu said Ragnar had merely been waiting for a new master ever since its previous owner died. Honestly, we still don't fully understand it, but based on Ragnar's facial expression, it looked like he was showing anger toward Imu. Some fans are already theorizing that Ragnar's previous owner may have been connected to Joy Boy's era or perhaps even a former ruler of Elbaf. Then Ragnar attacked Imu with his ice powers, while Loki simultaneously launched his lightning powers as well. The two of them created a combo attack together. When Imu saw this, he immediately counterattacked. He created a massive black circle in the sky and threw multiple black fireballs one after another. He called this attack Solar Eclipse Explosive Strike. The name alone sounds incredibly important because eclipses in One Piece are often connected to darkness, ancient kingdoms, and hidden history. As a result, Loki got hit in different parts of his body, while Imu himself also took damage. But somehow, both of them still managed to dodge several attacks thrown at each other. In the next panel, it was revealed that Bonney was actually watching the fight between Imu and Loki from a distance. When Lilith noticed her, she immediately called out to her. It was shown that both Lilith and Bonney were together with an injured Sanji. They said that they would protect him from Imu. Then Bonney asked who exactly Loki was fighting right now. Lilith answered that the enemy was clearly far superior even compared to the Holy Knights. But obviously, he was not one of the 5 elders. That line alone basically confirms how terrifying Imu's true power really is, because even Vegapunk satellites can sense the massive difference in strength. Then suddenly, Sanji stood up, but Bonney quickly stopped him because of his injuries. Sanji suddenly remembered his earlier battle against Gillingham. He mentioned that they were still planning to continue their mission of kidnapping the giant children. Because of that memory, Sanji suddenly gained the strength to stand up and leave. He used Luffy and Usopp's love for Elbaf as his motivation. That's why he said they absolutely had to protect this place. This moment honestly showed how much Sanji has changed throughout the series because despite his injuries, he still chose to prioritize protecting innocent people first. And of course, Sanji still had his usual line at the end, saying that Elbaf is also the land of beautiful women. Next, the scene shifted to the Owl Library. It was revealed that there was actually an underground passage there leading to a secret room. And yes, Sol and Robin found Biblo there, together with the books from the Owl Library. He managed to save all of them, and none of the books were burned. Sol and Robin were extremely grateful for what Biblo did. This scene heavily parallels O'Hara because once again, knowledge and history are being protected from destruction. Oda is clearly reminding us how important books and hidden history are in the final saga. On the other hand, Summers was shown carrying a massive ship and dropping it near a rainbow bridge. Then Summers called someone. He mentioned that he would arrive in 5 minutes, so that person should get ready. The rainbow bridge itself might also have deeper symbolism because rainbow imagery in One Piece is often connected to transitions between worlds or realms. Next, the scene shifted to Hadruden's group. This was the first group that Imu attacked. It was shown that Chopper was extremely busy because he was treating the giants who had been attacked by Imu. Gerd, who had her fingers severed, managed to have them reattached by Chopper. However, Chopper said it would still take several months before her fingers fully returned to normal. Gerd thanked him for that. Cologne also thanked Chopper for helping them. There was even a small romantic moment between Gerd and Rode on the side. Moments like this are honestly important because they give a little emotional balance in the middle of all the chaos happening in Elbaf. Anyway, the scene then shifted to the area outside the western village, where we could see Goldberg running. Zoro was riding on his shoulder. Zoro mentioned that Goldberg seemed to be in too much of a hurry. But Goldberg replied that it was fine since he himself didn't have any serious injuries unlike their companions. Goldberg also thanked Zoro for fighting alongside them. Don't think too much about it, Zoro replied. Because as long as their captain considers a country as a friend, then they would protect it with everything they have. This line perfectly represents the Straw Hats' loyalty to Luffy and why so many nations eventually become their allies. Then Zoro pulled out a bullet from a gun. It turns out that this was actually the bullet Imu used to attack him earlier. Zoro also wondered why Imu-sama was unbelievably powerful. He said that if they failed to stop Imu early enough, then all of them would be in serious trouble. Interestingly, the fact that Zoro personally acknowledged Imu's strength shows just how dangerous the final enemy truly is. Some fans are even comparing this build-up to the way Whitebeard or Kaido were hyped before their major battles. In the next panel, the scene returned to Summers. It turns out that the person he called earlier was actually Gillingham. Summers was furious about the nightmare monster summoned by Gillingham. He said that the thing Gillingham summoned was endangering even them. He also mentioned that Gillingham couldn't even control it himself. But Gillingham's response was simply that he no longer cared. The only thing important to him was getting revenge against the people who humiliated him. At that point, Summers simply let it go. He suddenly realized IMU'S efforts in helping them with their mission. That's why they needed to repay him. They absolutely had to succeed in this mission. Then the creature summoned by Gillingham, which Summers feared so much, slowly started getting revealed. It was shown that rain suddenly started pouring over several villages in Elbaf. Then the scene shifted to Cologne's group, where they were suddenly swept away by living water. And yes, the giant children that they were planning to kidnap earlier were shown being carried away by this living water. Kashi, Stanson, Ange, and Ripley were completely helpless. Then Gillingham suddenly gave a speech. He said that for those living in Mary Geos, the sound of rain or water itself represents pure terror. It becomes even more terrifying when accompanied by the drums of liberation. That statement is honestly massive because it may hint that Joy Boy or Nika once used rain itself during the ancient war against the world government. According to Gillingham, the monster he was referring to was also the one responsible for bringing rain into the world, and it was called the Rain God. And yes, the Rain God itself was the being summoned by Gillingham in Elbaf. Its face was revealed to look like a ninja. Its entire body was made of water. The name of this Rain God was revealed to be Zaza. It was shown that he was currently holding the giant children while they cried for help. When Summers and Gillingham saw this, they became extremely excited. The design of Zaza honestly feels very different from the other creatures introduced in the arc, which is why many fans are already theorizing that the Rain God could be connected to the ancient gods mentioned long ago in Skypiea. On the other side, we also saw Zoro and Sanji sensing that something unusual was happening in the western village. That's why both of them immediately headed toward that location. They were now ready to fight for the second time. And honestly, seeing Zoro and Sanji moving together again already feels like the setup for another legendary duo moment. And with that, chapter 1182 finally ended. Overall, this was another solid chapter. The reveal of the Rain God was honestly exciting. Fans will definitely start creating all kinds of theories and ideas about who this could possibly be in the current timeline. There are already theories saying that the Rain God might be connected to the ancient weapons, Joy Boy's allies, or even the origin of devil fruits themselves. Anyway, if you enjoyed this brand new chapter review, don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to our channel. So, that's it for today.